once again to our webinar about the Medical Alley Association strategic initiatives, Medical Alley Starts in Global. And thank you once again for joining us. My name is Philip Costello. I'm the startup principal at the association, working primarily on Medical Alley Starts, which is our venture platform to lower the cost of starting, scaling, and pivoting new ventures. My background is in law and finance. I used to do M&A and regulatory work at a law firm. And then I kind of pivoted into startup work, doing deal flow, deal sourcing, and deal negotiation at Carrots Before my global angel investor network. I'm joined by my colleague, Kyle Jordan, our global principal. Kyle, if you would introduce yourself.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. As Philip mentioned, my name is Kyle Jordan. I am your global principal here at Medical Alley. This is our newest initiative within the organization, and I'm really looking forward to talking a little bit about what that's looking like today. My background is in economic development, primarily, having worked for organizations like the State of Minnesota DEED, Greater MSP, previously the Canadian Consulate here in Minneapolis. So looking forward to introducing ourselves to you today.
We prepared a slide deck outlining our startup and global work, but we're also looking for insight from you. We're certainly open to any questions, comments, or anything that you would like to share with us. So please use the Q&A function as we go through the slide deck, and we'll get to your questions at the very end. For every single registrant, the recording, it will be available afterwards, and we'll be sending that out shortly. If we could move to next slide. When we talk about Medical Alley, we're really talking about two things. We're talking about Medical Alley, the place, which is a region that stretches between Rochester and Duluth. And it's really a terrific place for technological innovation for healthcare companies because of the local ecosystem. The Medical Alley Association was founded in 1984 by Earl Bakken, the founder of Medtronic. And in almost 40 years of our history, our work has been driven by our mission to enable health technology and care companies to innovate and succeed, and our vision to elevate Medical Alley as the global epicenter of health innovation and care. It's because of the support of our large and established members that Kyle will talk about in a second, that we can work with startups, bring innovative companies to Minnesota, and help our companies expand globally.
So Medical Alley, we have over 700 members as of today. Here are some of the logos from our foundational and sustaining members. So thank you to you all for supporting our organization. Just to give a sense, if you are not familiar with our organization, we are not just medtech. You'll see in here many logos from everything from biotech, hospitals, providers, logistics. This is an organization that brings together stakeholders from across the healthcare spectrum to collaborate, to innovate, and to bring new solutions to the future of healthcare.
Let's get to the why we started Medical Alley Starts in Global. We recognize, and we've heard from people that that startup work is hard. There's a ton of work, there's a ton of risk associated with startups and healthcare startups specifically. On top of market and financial risk, there's also regulatory risk and other risks associated with doing startups. There's also plenty of obstacles that founders have to overcome on their journey. Capital is typically limited, and founders have to decide where to invest their resources. There's, are you going to focus on research? Are you going to focus on product development, business development? So this specifically for first-time founders, these obstacles can sometimes feel like they're very difficult to overcome because these founders typically don't have access to the network of people and companies that would be able to help them. What we're doing is we're leveraging the network, the strong network and the existing ecosystem to help those companies get capital, customers, and talent. The old saying is that 9 out of 10 companies and startup companies will fail, and we're really working hard to help reduce this number. So startups can look at us as a partner. For startup companies that are pre-revenue and haven't raised their Series A yet, membership is free of charge because we don't want to be just another bill that companies have to pay. When we look at it from the perspective of other stakeholders, which is on this slide, a lot of companies, a lot of established companies, they want to work with startups to get the next innovative product, to get the next market edge, if you will. But sometimes mistakes that startup companies make early on may prevent them from being able to partner with large corporations, later on in their existence. So we want to be able to get startups early feedback from those large corporations, but also be able to help those companies get insight into what's going on in the market, get market intelligence, and help them scout the next big opportunity. I think next slide would be Kyle's.
Yeah, so just piggybacking on exactly what Philip said, a lot of the issues that he's just described can be they're mirrored with international entry to the US market. So we're building on the success of the Medical Alley Starts program, what Philip has built to bring a global perspective. And how can we work with companies looking to enter this market? We know that the US is huge. There's no way to really just tackle the entire country at one time. So we're here to support companies in breaking that down piece by piece. What is our path to FDA approval? What is our path to sales? What do you recommend we do for distribution? These are questions that we get asked with some regularity. And again, these are questions that startups are asking of Medical Alley Starts. So we're just making sure that we're putting a global lens for those companies who are from outside the US to make sure that they're finding success in this market, and hopefully specifically within Medical Alley. Our goal is always to welcome as many new companies to this region as we can, because we believe it is the strongest region in the country for healthcare innovation. So happy to help and make sure that the common mistakes that folks are seeing can be avoided. So what does that look like specifically? We are talking about an easy button. So as we've just described, there's various ways in which we can support companies, both startups locally, domestically, and internationally. As Philip says, you've got the great pitch down. I got to work on mine. So lowering the cost to start, scale, and pivot for new ventures. And right now, what we're saying for Medical Alley Global is that we are bringing the world to Medical Alley and Medical Alley to the world. And that's very important to us that you guys know we're here to help. If you'd like to go to the next slide.
I actually think that your punchline might be better. So thank you for saying that. We're obviously not doing this alone. We've been fortunate enough to get feedback and strategic advice from our advisory board that represents investors, corporate leaders, and representatives of the three major subsectors: medical device, digital health, and biopharma innovators. Combined between the 8 of them, they started more than a dozen of companies, raised billions in capital, and generated billions in investor returns. They are also committed to give back to the community and to the industry through their involvement with Medical Alley Association. They are really helpful in providing insight and thought leadership for us, so we know where to focus our resources and what's the next big thing that we would want to tackle. If you can go to next slide. We're also really, really thankful for the support of our sponsors that invested in the Medical Alley community. These sponsors offer free or discounted services for startup companies and scale-up companies, help them with strategic advice, help them with their insight, and help them minimize costs. JP Morgan is offering a scalable banking solution that your company will never outgrow. Clifton Larson Allen provide expert advice in tax and financial matters. A Couple of Gurus is an IT firm that helps companies assess their IT ecosystem's health and vulnerabilities. And finally, Diversified Plastics is a full-service contract manufacturer that helps device companies get their product to market.
So we've talked about some of the issues and things that we've supported companies with, but let's talk about exactly what those services are. So I hate to read directly from a slide, but at the same time, this one's pretty useful. So what are we able to do here with 700 members of Medical Alley and a network globally? We're looking to support startups with connections to investors and pre-seed growth opportunities financially. We're also working with our corporate partners. As Philip mentioned earlier, these folks are looking for startups to partner with or to potentially invest in or buy one day to allow them to have that market edge, to have that next innovation that not only provides that business that edge, but also helps to save lives and reduce pain and suffering around the world. So we look to add value in that way. We're also looking, as Philip just mentioned, the Ready Reserve members. So if you are a startup who has maybe a specific question, you're at a point where you have a decision to make and you just want to know somebody who's been at that inflection point maybe 2 years ago. What did they do? What do they recommend you do? We can make those connections directly to your peers. And then just in terms of our Global Epicenter campaign, we are looking to make sure that the world knows that, not only is Medical Alley recognized as a medtech leader, but it is a place of growth and innovation. Minnesotans, we're not great at bragging about ourselves, but in this space, we really are good at what we do. And we're looking to add value around the world so that folks know that. And then finally, market access. So again, those questions around how do I get through FDA approval? How do I get to reimbursement? Hey, I'm doing really well in the US, but I really want to enter the European market. Can you help me with that? Or whatever the case may be. These are the kinds of questions that we receive with regularity. And we have the answers, either here within Medical Alley or within our network of members and partners around the world. So if you could go to the next slide. We talk about what those are, but here it is in the numbers. Just in the last quarter, our team has worked with startups to add value to so many companies. We're talking 78 peer-to-peer connections. So when we say, let us know if you have a question, we mean that. We're doing this every single day, multiple times a day. Adding, supplier referrals. We get questions all the time. Hey, I need a small scale manufacturer to do my clinical trials. We have the answer for that. We have members who can do that, and we are happy to refer you. So just know that when we say we offer these services, we're not kidding. We do this every day, and we are looking forward to working with you and helping you grow to that next point of your corporate development.
And just to give you a couple of examples of what Kyle was just talking about, we helped source Livio Health for Blue Cross Blue Shield, leading to an acquisition. And those are just some of the examples that we can share. We heard an early stage startup find a critical mentor and help them raise their first money. We also introduced a device startup CEO to a strategic, which later led to an investment and an acquisition for more than $400 million. And we connected an inventor to a large urology company, which then later acquired the IP of the inventor. We are crafting our tools and building our tools and services based off of your feedback. So we really want to hear from you. That's why we ran a sentiment survey between October 2021 and January 2022, followed by a set of roundtables for different industries. We gathered the responses from startups and investors, and we discovered that companies feel like this is a connected community with great resources between the suppliers and large corporations that are present over here. There's a ton of opportunity in the ecosystem and a ton of resources that startup companies can leverage. There is definitely a strong sense of connection to Medical Alley, the place. People that are present and active in the community definitely feel tied to the place. And we definitely heard from companies that there's a steady and sustainable growth, and something that we need to work on going forward is to get those successes the promotion that they deserve. What were some of the gaps that we discovered was that, or not that we discovered, but that were perceived by startup companies is lack of early stage capital. They certainly mentioned that they believe that partnering with large corporations is hard, and some companies mentioned that the support from the government could use some help. Just a couple of highlights of Medical Alley companies in 2021. There were there was value created of over 1.5 billion in IPOs, with Bright Health leading the way, followed by Agility, CVRX, and Miromatrix. There was over 430 million in VC funding, which was, really respectable amount after almost 1.5 billion in 2020, and over 23 billion in M&A transactions. In reality, that number is much higher, but a large proportion of the M&A transactions don't actually report the value of the transaction. What we found is almost as important as those large numbers is the fact that 80 companies actually raised less than $1 million, which shows that it's not just the growth investments that are driving value on Medical Alley, but it's also the early stage companies that are going to be the next Bright Health or the next Agility or the next CVRX. So we're definitely feeling good about the ecosystem and its future. As I'm sure a lot of you know, 2022 has been quite a challenging year for a host of reasons, but the markets aren't slowing down. Year to date, there have been almost $750 million in private funding. There were already 24 M&A transactions worth over $10 billion. And again, with only a few of them having reported transaction value. Companies are using the SBIR and STTR funding, and for that, actually, we have a great resource in the SBIR and STTR accelerator that we're more than happy to refer you to. And even on the job market, the job number grew steadily despite the market slowing down.
So I'm going to talk a little bit now about what Medical Alley Global has done this year. So we've historically worked at a kind of an ad hoc way with our international partners. We're always happy to help companies from all over the world to enter the market here in the US through Medical Alley, but looking to really formalize that process. So when we talk about bringing Medical Alley to the world, what are we talking about? So this year, or technically last year, we started our first go-to-market accelerator with the government of Quebec. So in that program, we are working with 10 companies selected through an application process who are curious about the US market and prepared at a certain stage to enter and want to understand the best ways to do that, to save money, to avoid problems. So we partner with that organization to provide one-on-one support. We do virtual sessions on questions that people have with regularity. We will also be visiting Montreal to meet with the companies and meet with their ecosystem. This group will be visiting Minneapolis in December and to learn more about our ecosystem as well. So if you hear from me asking for some support around that, or getting an invitation to attend a reception and the like, please know that these are the types of opportunities we really think our members will be interested to attend and to learn more about these startups from around the world. So we've also, besides that accelerator, we've had some formalized relationships in the last few years with groups like MedTech Bridge out of Denmark, for example, or Bio Melbourne. Everyone knows that our boss, Frank, is on the board of their organization, but looking to grow those partnerships with groups like in the UK, the AHSN network, having some very interesting conversations with them around health equity, for example. How are they advancing those conversations in the UK, and how can we perhaps take lessons from them to advance our goals here in Minnesota and around the US. Also looking to work more with specific government organizations, consular groups, for example. We've historically had a great relationship with the Netherlands, with the Dutch government, looking to expand upon that, and not only with the Dutch, but other governments as well. We've had quite a few visits this year from groups like the Hong Kong government, Singapore, and several others, including what we're calling maybe under the radar groups. These might be companies or countries that you hadn't thought about at your organization as startup hubs, for example. So we are seeing some really interesting activity in places like Romania and Latvia. We've spoken with Ecuador about some opportunities as well, but just knowing that not only are there really fantastic companies in these places, but governments that are supporting those companies in their growth and looking to build partnership in the US. So we are here to support and looking forward to sharing those opportunities as they mature with our membership. And then when it comes to bringing the world to Medical Alley, I mentioned a little bit about some of the delegations that we're welcoming, like Quebec, for example. This year alone, we've had companies come in delegation from France, from Japan, from Austria, cluster networks around the European Union. So each time these delegations visit, it's essentially a group of maybe 5 to 10 companies who are looking at US commercialization. They're coming here to learn primarily. So they want to do some tours. So thank you to groups like NAMSA, to the University of Minnesota, to Metatronics and others who have welcomed these groups and their desire to learn and to tour facilities while they're in Minnesota. These groups are also looking to find connection. Maybe it seems like they just want to sell things to our members, but in a lot of cases, they're looking to learn and to partner. How can their innovation, how is it viewed by our established members? They're looking to take that information back to their home country, sort of iterate on their innovation and prepare for US commercialization down the line. So again, thank you to all of those companies who we've reached out to to take these one-on-one meetings when these delegations are in town. It's really important to those companies visiting, especially as they consider whether or not the US, not only the US, but whether or not Minnesota is the location for their first US footprint. Just based on some of the groups that we've had come through, we've confirmed 6, might even be 7 at this point, international companies selecting Minnesota as their first US location. So that's fantastic for this network to be able to grow and diversify. We think that there's a lot of opportunity in that, and we hope that you would agree and will help us to continue that success. So again, knowing that moving forward, we will have more of these visits. I think now that the US borders are open, I would never say post-COVID, but where we are today, we've had so many of these delegations come to visit that I don't even get to leave. So, hey, maybe next year. But all that to say, we do have some very interesting groups coming to town even later this month. We will have what's considered a reverse delegation from Nigeria and Senegal, which means they're coming here not to necessarily sell, but to buy. So you may see an invitation to attend some events with them, whether that's a market assessment opportunity to learn about whether or not your company has the ability to do sales in their countries, but also to learn whether or not they're interested in the products that you might have or the knowledge that you might be able to impart. They're really looking to learn best practices while they're here in the US. And mind you, it's not just the US, they're coming directly to Medical Alley. And this is a federal government funded and organized group. So this is really fantastic news for us. We will also be welcoming groups, like I said, from Quebec, but also Britain. We will have the ABHI will be bringing a group here. So again, you may see a request from me down the line to potentially have a meeting or a tour of your facility as these groups really come to learn from us and take that knowledge back and remember that not only is the US an option, but Medical Alley is the best option. And I hope that they share that information with their peers back home.
We're reaching the end of the presentation, but before we talk about how different stakeholders can get involved, we've had a couple of questions come in, but please feel free to ask any question any questions using the Q&A function, and we'll make sure to answer them afterwards. But right before that, the punchline, the how to get involved. We talked a lot about different stakeholders and focused a lot on startups, but Medical Alley Starts in Global is not just for startups. So sure, if you're a startup, become a member. If you're an investor, feel free to reach out to get quality deal flow, and potentially even for your portfolio companies, we could be of help. If you're a corporation, you can turn to us to get market insight, quality deal flow, and partnering opportunities. If you're a service provider looking to work with startups, you can reach out to us and become part of our referral network. If you're an experienced entrepreneur, we would definitely welcome your insight into into how to approach business, how to be successful in the market. And if you're a global accelerator that Kyle just talked about, feel free to reach out and partner with us. That concludes the presentation, and we've had a few questions come in. Here's
a nice softball in here for you, Philip.
Sorry, what did you say?
So there's a nice softball in here for you. What is the membership fee for startups?
For startups that are pre-revenue and then have raised less than their Series A, membership is free of charge. Once companies kind of get going, get some capital, and get off the ground, membership dues start somewhere around $825 per year for the companies that have just gotten some recurring revenue or have gotten some significant funding. There's also one for you, Kyle. One of our participants would be interested in hosting Nigeria and Senegal team to share their company's story. I think that we would be more than happy to reach out afterwards. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I know this is a group that's particularly interested in some, next generation healthcare, maybe is how you might describe it. Things like incorporating AI, talking about robotic surgeries, these kinds of things. I have a nice wish list from them, so I will happily follow up with you after this conversation. If nothing else, like I said, there's certainly, for anybody who's interested, the group from Nigeria and Senegal will be hosting a sort of a conversation around what it's like to do business in Nigeria and Senegal. So anybody who's interested in that, they're welcome to attend. We're posting, I believe that's currently posted on our community events calendar, the registration link. So I believe that is Thursday, August 25th, the morning. So please consider it. I think it'll be a fantastic event.
You covered this a little bit during the presentation, but can you talk a bit more or in a bit more detail about the Global Market Access Program, about what services, what support, and what other help we can offer?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, it sounds a little silly to say, but let me know what questions you have. I think, because of the network that we are growing around the world, not only with our, peer associations in places like Europe and Africa and Asia, but also governments directly, we are seeing questions like, I have this problem getting my product here. Can you connect me to a government person? Yep. We have that contact person, and we're happy to make that referral. When it comes to things like distribution, for example, we have access to this really fantastic tool, if you're unfamiliar, called My Caribou. This is a great database of not only medtech companies around the world, but distributors. So if you're trying to think, I really want to start distribution in Israel, but I don't know who to talk to, this is a fantastic tool. I will happily share the link to this database with anyone. It's free to use for 30 days. And after that, there is a subscription, but it's incredibly useful. So just know that if you have these questions, please just reach out to me. My contact information is right there. And we are happy to see what's possible. Again, if it's not going to be something we're able to do here at Medical Alley, odds are really good that we have a person to send you to get that answer. Oh gosh, I was going to ask you a question, Philip. I see one here.
Go ahead.
So just asking about whether or not to join Medical Alley Starts if someone needs to be Minnesota based. So please feel free to expand upon that.
That's a really, really good question. We are called the Medical Alley Association, and we want to promote this region. But we're certainly more than happy to work with companies that might not be based here, but have some sort of a presence here. So if you want to get connected in the region, or if you want to get connected with the companies that are over here, if you want to leverage the resources that are available in the ecosystem, whether it's the large corporations or the suppliers that have terrific track record of working with startups, please do feel free to reach out, and I'm sure that we'll find a way to work together.
And just quickly to add to that, we're working to establish sort of an international membership. So if you have any thoughts on, as an international body, what would be useful to your organization as a member, please let me know. A lot of our content today, you kind of have to be either local to Minnesota, or at least in the US time zones, to take advantage of things like this webinar today. So we want to make sure that anyone who's joining as a member does find value. So again, we're looking to develop that international member opportunity, and looking for advice on what you would consider to be valuable from our organization. So I'm going to ask there's a question in here, Philip, that I think that you were hoping to answer live, and that's really about the investments that have happened this year.
Yeah, certainly. And the question was specifically asking about the smaller, the more earlier stage investments that were under the 1 million threshold. It's typically typically the largest proportion would be a combination of convertible notes and equity investments. What we've seen lately is popularity of simple agreements for future equity, or saves, which are extremely useful for these smaller investments specifically, but mostly I would say convertible notes and equity investments.
Fantastic. Oh, so just as you were talking about referrals, there's a question here about our referral network. So our referral network is essentially our membership base. So if you are a member of Medical Alley, there's a good chance that at some point I might refer somebody to you, and so might Philip. If you would like a slightly but remember, again, we have 700 members, so sometimes it's helpful for us if you feel that there's something you have to share with either startups or internationally based companies. Just drop us a note and say, here's why I think you guys should refer companies to us. Sometimes the companies that we're working with ask for very specific contact people. Hey, I'm working in this particular area of research, so this particular company fits what I'm doing. Can you connect me to them? Sometimes they're a little bit more, vague. I'll give you an example of, we just recently had a delegation in town from Austria, and we had a company who was looking to connect with locally based companies doing research in, oncology and the microbiome. They'd never heard of rebiotics before. So I wanted to make sure that they knew that this company existed and could be a resource to them. So just know that if you feel that there's something that we should be referring your organization to our international or domestic network, just drop us a note so that we know what that is.
Absolutely. One more question specifically about the second part of your punchline for Medical Alley Global, the bringing Medical Alley to the world. Are there any plans to send a delegation of US companies abroad? And if so, where would that be?
Yeah, we would really like to do that. And we are working with some of the partners who have visited this year to kind of talk about, all right, you brought us a delegation and you found it valuable. If we were to do the same, what would the topic be? What we don't want to just, as fun as it is to visit places like Austria, we want to make sure that there's value in it, both for our members as well as the Austrians who we would be visiting. So an example we had kind of kicked around was there's a biobank in Styria that is quite robust and could be very interesting for companies doing research in rare diseases, for example. These are just ideas. So if there's a particular area that you have interest in learning more about, or if there's a particular market that you have questions about, again, please let us know. We've wondered about, is there opportunities to explore, England post-Brexit, just Europe and generally with some of these new challenges around market approval. Should we consider, again, those under the radar markets? Would a reverse delegation of us or of our companies going to a place like Nigeria be of interest, or to Latvia, Romania. We would really welcome your feedback on what is of interest or any particular areas of research that you're looking to find partnership in. And, if we hear about it or we know about it around the world, happy to connect and see what's possible. I know, like I said, we've had about 7 delegations come to us this year. I would love for us to go to visit somebody else next year.
I think that was it for questions. So if there are no other, we would like to thank you for your time and for your attention. And we would very much appreciate if you reach out to us if you have any questions, if you want to get connected, if you want to be part of the community, or if you just want to have a conversation about what you're doing and what we're doing and how we might be able to work together.
Thank you so much, everyone. We look forward to hearing from you and working with you more through 2020 and beyond.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.